believe in change and we're prepared for it with new techniques and new approaches. And as for our part, we feel that you're the best pieces of manpower available in this whole region.
Let it go out there today, baby.
3, 2, 1.
And once again, our mighty ship is back on course.
Welcome to the Sports Talk with Devin Wade podcast.
Mama, there goes that man.
You the man. Ladies and gentlemen, star of our show.
Welcome to another edition of the Sports Talk with Devin Wade podcast, the final edition of the 2025 campaign of 2025 as we say goodbye to the year. But I wanted to come to you guys one more time this year. We have not been nearly as productive enough. I mean, life has happened. Schedules get busy. Conflicts in schedule. My man Red dealing with some things, so he's not been as available. And we continue to try to work this thing out so we can give you what you want, and that's more content. And before I get into what we got today, because we do have a fun and interesting conversation with our guy Mark Gray. We'll tell you more about that as we get to know him, or reintroduce him to you guys for those who have been longtime podcast listeners, not on the visual side, but on the audio side. You are familiar. Maybe, I mean, you have to be a long time listener to, because it's been a minute since we visited with Mark Gray, but he's coming up. But before I do all of that, want to thank you guys for an incredible 2025. You guys have really supported me on Inside of the Chill on KTSU, the Thursday Chill, the Friday Express, KTSU Sports Talk, all of those things. So thank you for the love and support. And things are only going to get bigger and better. I'm going to claim that because I know that with people like you supporting me and what we do, it can only get bigger and better. So thank you for all of your support. Thank you for spreading the word. Want to remind you, you can join the Facebook group, Sports Talk with Devin Wade Facebook group, and be a part of that. In addition to that, you can call the sports line 24 hours a day, 832-941-6614. That way you can leave a message and get involved in the conversation. So what I want to do for 2026 is rebrand some things, right? Because I don't want to just limit my conversations to those around sports. And if you listen to the podcast for the entirety of it, usually we venture off into one direction or another. But I want to be a little bit more intentional about that in 2026. And I'm thinking about doing some other fun things in the podcast space. So you guys let me know your level of interest in that. One of the things, among other things, I'm thinking about, okay, let me preface all this by saying there's been a lot going on, been very, very busy, but I have had a small amount of time to invest into a bit of a new hobby. And that is being that of a minor bourbon connoisseur. So I have built up quite a collection in a short amount of time, all on the low end as I graduate to the higher end bourbons. But that's my thing. And so I'm thinking about it, and I have a number of fellas that are really on the same journey with me. Some of them are a little bit further along on the bourbon journey than I am. So I may get together with some of the guys and have some conversations around specifically bourbon, maybe some wine talk as well, because for years, right, I do what everybody else does, whatever the hot drink is. I go all the way back to Tanqueray and Quavo 1800 and all of those things. But now being older and not being much more responsible about sort of what I do and how I do things, I have gotten into the deeper aspects of the spirits world, right? Like, so I've been sampling and growing in that space, and I have really enjoyed not just the beverages themselves and the juice, as it were, but understanding how it's made, what went into it, the different flavor profiles, all the things that go into it. It's not like the old days where you just, hey, you're just looking for the bottom of the bottle, as it were. This is a lot different, and I'm really appreciating that. So if this is something that you think you might watch as I partake and sort of give you some reviews and kind of maybe walk you along my journey, maybe that's something we'll get into. Obviously, I have some things we're going to do in the music space. Always got room for just a lot of different topics that would be great to bring in people to talk about. So now that won't get away from what we do on sports, because we still want to do sports stuff primarily, because that's the thing. That's what I do. But there's so many different facets to what I like and what I'm interested in, and I want to be able to share those things with you if you are like-minded. So a lot of the feedback you give me will dictate how we move forward, or how much we move forward in those different areas. So that in mind, let's talk a little bit of sports. A lot going on. The Texans, wow, what I mean, first of all, the NFL season has been crazy all the way through. Who would have thought that we would be at this point? No Mahomes. Josh Allen is rebounding and is going to make a run at it, but it didn't look like that throughout the season. I still think that they have some major deficiencies. We'll talk a little bit more about those things. But no Mahomes, got Allen still in there, and no Lamar Jackson. And you look at it and you're like, wow, this thing is no Joe Burrow. So you're looking at it, it's as wide open a field going into week 18, the 17th game of the season for these teams, and into the playoffs. Unbelievable, man. It's been crazy for the Texans to start out 0-3, and they can get as high up as a 3 seed. I don't think they will, because I don't think the weekend will turn out that way for them. But to think this team was dead in the water, there were a ton of questions. And I know part of it is we are so reactive to the NFL week in and week out. I mean, the sky is falling if you lose, and you are booking your flight to the Super Bowl destination when you win. But to start off 0-3, no signs of life. C.J. Stroud goes out with the concussion. Davis Mills comes in, saves the season for you, and now you are rolling. You defeat Kansas City. You have beaten the Chargers. You have gotten it done in a major way. You've beaten Buffalo. You've done some things, and like I said, man, this team is going to be formidable. Now, can they go all the way? I'm a lot more skeptical than a lot of people. I'm less bullish than most people are in the greater Houston area about it. But every team has major question marks, right? You look at, let's go to the NFC. Philadelphia, sputtering offensively. Not as good as they were defensively. Certainly can't run the ball like they did last season. Can Jalen Hurts get them back there if you don't have that record-breaking ground game with Saquon Barkley? Can you get that done? You look at, now you got Jordan Love for the Packers. Is he going to be healthy enough? Is he good enough? This is a team I thought at points of the season were the favorite to go to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, can they get it done? Then you have a team like Seattle, which they have a defense on par with the Texans, but you got Sam Darnold, who, when he's hot, he's hot. But when he's not, like when he played against the Texans, 5 turnovers, he's not, and he can definitely lose you the game. And then you have like San Francisco. So it's, they have question marks. And so everywhere you look, there are major question marks. Is Pittsburgh even going to get there? Are they going to get there? They have to beat the Ravens. Ravens can get in, but nobody's afraid of them. You got Denver. There's Bo Nix. I mean, they've done a lot with smoke and mirrors. Are they really that good? We'll find out in the coming weeks. But again, so if you're betting, if you're a fan and you just don't have a dog in the fight, this is an incredible, incredible lineup of games and possibilities in the AFC and the NFC. So, like, who do you most believe in? I don't know. I mean, I think you can make a case that the Texans are as in it as anybody. You have Dalton Schultz at tight end, and you have Nico Collins. Beyond that, can you trust these wide receivers to step up moving forward and into the playoffs? They're getting their first experience. I'm talking about Higgins and Noel. Are those guys up to it? So, can you get consistent running from Marks and Jordan, the running back that came out and debuted with a 100-yard game, and Nick Chubb? Can those guys, are they good enough? I've seen them up close. I'm not sure. Jacksonville, can you believe in them? There were a few years ago that everybody was on Jacksonville, and then they just had a massive collapse in the playoffs. So are those days over for Jacksonville? Is Trevor Lawrence the true Trevor Lawrence? Is this the Trevor Lawrence that we can count on? You have to ask. So Drake May, can Mike Vrabel take that team to a Super Bowl? It's a lot there. And so it's very interesting. And so we want to produce more content as we get into that. Rockets continue to have some issues defensively, although offensively they got the goods. But you talk about defensively, is this a team that can overcome an emerging San Antonio Spurs team or OKC? Right now, OKC started historically good. Can't beat the Spurs. Spurs have really have been surprising as well. So there's a lot going on there as well. And so in 2026, we have a lot of fun stuff coming up for you. But I do want to remind you guys that I need your support. We'll be asking for your support. I have some T-shirts. I have some coffee mugs. If you guys want to make a contribution and get some swag, because we need that support and that help moving forward. And I'll be more intentional and more organized with that as we have gone as we move forward. Talking about the video portion, have you really liked that? The numbers, I'm not getting huge numbers on hits just yet, but again, this is relatively new. We've only had a handful of episodes where we posted the video and the audio. The audio clearly continues to get more hits. I don't know how you like to ingest your content. Are you an audio only person, or are you more into the visual? I'm more audio only because I listen while driving when I listen to different podcasts. So, but I'm open to whatever. And you guys let me know and give me feedback. So a lot of this is collaborative, and I'll be asking for your help, your opinion, your support as we move forward. So there's been a lot. I've had a lot going on in a really, really wonderful way. It's been a really okay. So it's been a nice holiday season. Not been in a holiday mood, and that's for various reasons. It's just I guess I fall into that the holiday blues kind of thing a little bit, just a little bit. I don't know that I've had as much time off as I want to sort of decompress, and that's discouraging because come January 1st, everybody will be fired up and raring to go, and I've not really had that respite. But again, that's what we do. We keep grinding, and we'll do so, and we'll find ways and organize around creating more content for you guys, because that's what it's all about, right? Because I know how I feel about the content that I consume. I check back constantly, making sure, is there a new episode up of this or that or whomever? A lot of the content I listen to is not necessarily sports, so that's why I am being pushed into a different direction. But again, a lot of that will be dictated by you guys. With that, I want to transition and get into our conversation with Mark Gray, veteran sports guy. He's been all over the place. He's done a lot in the world of baseball, HBCU sports. He's in the Metro, the Beltway, right? The DMV, Baltimore, DC, all that whole area. So he's an expert of about all things of that region. So we'll get into some Ravens talk and a whole lot more. So without further ado, let's get into that conversation with Mark Gray. As promised, joined now by a longtime supporter, a guy that's been in the industry forever and ever and has done all sorts of things on all sorts of levels. Our guy, Mark Gray, welcome aboard, man. We certainly appreciate you.
It's been a long time, bro. Long time. And just to the folk in Houston, I miss coming down there for the SWAC championship. Those were the glory days.
Yeah, you and I did
a
one
different time.
Yeah, which was great. But beyond that, man, like I said, man, you've done so many things. I mean, what are some of the highlights just to refresh the memory of folks? Of course, you've been on the podcast before, but this is the first time you've been on the visual portion. Sort of refresh, give us some of the highlights, some of the first paragraph of your wiki page.
Oh, former ESPN radio host. I work with a lot of people that are famous now. Like I was there before Stephen A., but I got to work with Stuart Scott. So I make that change any day of the week. I was there when Greenberg left Sports Center to become uh, radio talk show icon. Now he's over doing First Take. I worked with Kenny Mayne. That was my guy. Oberman, I was good with. I mean, those were the glory years when the network was really doing the work of the sports fan instead of these days doing the work for the sports book. And
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
and to me, that's where you have lost your journalistic soul. I mean, you own a piece of the NFL because you own NFL Network. You got your own sports book now. Kind of blurs the lines just a little bit. And again, with my inquisitive journalistic mind, it makes you wonder.
Yeah, and I've talked about the sort of the hypocrisy of the NBA getting caught up in their gambling scandal, and then conversely, you have LeBron actually doing a whole campaign for DraftKings, but not on a basketball court. He's doing it with a football field as a backdrop with Kevin Hart. It's weird stuff, man. They're doing a lot of strange things, man. Something strange for the change, as they like to say. But wanted to grab a little time with you, man, as we wrap up 2025. I know you've done a lot with baseball. You've done a bunch of stuff this year. What's sort of some of the things that have stood out for you this year in your neck of the woods? Because, by the way, you're in the DMV, or how do I classify your area? Is it DMV? Because I know you Baltimore.
I'm in PG County, so I'm full-fledged in the DMV.
Okay.
You know what
So
I'm saying?
what's
Full-fledged.
resonating in your neck of the woods, man? What has in 2025?
If we're gonna keep it around here, I'd have to say the disappointment of the pro football season. It was just a tragic fall up here, and I mean that figuratively, of course, because Maryland hyped us on having the University of Maryland, that is, hyped us on having Malik Washington, the top freshman quarterback in the nation, and they just got bludgeoned around him. I was able to see Fernando Mendoza on homecoming. He is for real. I don't know what's going to keep him from being the number one draft, and coming up this year, because he's got all the physical tools. I think, to me, however, this year is really sort of defined by what happened with the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. We don't know if he's coming back. People always were talking about how they got sick of watching the Chiefs, like same way they got sick of watching the Bulls. And now you peel those layers back a few years and you hope to see that kind of stuff again. That's why we fans. That's why we got in this game. So to me, the future of Patrick Mahomes is the one thing right now that sticks out for me from this year. And I think another one will be the greatness of Dave Roberts finally solidifying himself as a Hall of Fame manager.
What?
First ballot, whenever he chooses to step off 5 years later, he's done it. Shohei Ohtani's a freak. And the World Series was just everything, man. So those are the moments that really stand out for me. I don't want to pour salt in the wound, but I lost a couple of years of my life when the Cougars lost on the way that they did to Florida in the NCAA tournament game, because I really wanted Kelvin Sampson to get that. And, I apologize. It was a black thing, but that's just how I wanted to see a brother go down and to see it play like that. So this was just an amazing year of sports. I don't know if I could, centralize it on one specific thing, but even if you're a golfer, man, I don't know if you're still hitting the ball or not, but
Yeah, every
Scotty
now and then.
Scheffler, dude.
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler was that dude, man. So it's been a lot of great stuff to sort of take you away and give you a respite from the serious things that are happening in our country. And God knows we needed sports this year in a big way, despite the influences that were trying to damage the games.
I tell you what, man, you talk about your part of the country, you think about obviously the fall of Kansas City, but that was supposed to make way. And a lot of people down here even predicted that Baltimore and Lamar Jackson would finally get over the hump. Not Josh Allen. A lot more people thought it would be Baltimore that would get over the hump. And although it's not quite over for them, they are, in the words of loose ends, hanging on a string, man. And I don't know if they can get it done. It's a crazy turn of events. Can you foresee a coaching change there or change the scenery? I mean, so many wild things have taken place. Are they going to just get healthy and reload and do it again? What are your takeaways if they don't get past Pittsburgh on Sunday?
I think there will be some changes. I don't necessarily buy into the notion that it's going to be Lamar Jackson that is the one, but the rumors are, and if I could get this out of the way first, I want to preface my remarks by saying I think there was a pretty erroneous column that was written by Mike Preston, who wants to be Jason Whitlock, in the conservative-based Armstrong Williams-run Baltimore Sun newspaper. And I frame it in that context because many of the, um, uh, shall we call them, references in his column on Sunday that was so disparaging with no sourcing to it. And let's be clear for a second. He alleges that Lamar was falling asleep in meetings. Nobody has corroborated that. He said that the team adjusted its practice schedule to accommodate Lamar Jackson. That's not true. The Ravens are a analytical based team. They believe in the algorithms and stuff. They adjusted their practice schedule 2 years ago because the analytics told them that they would get more bang for their buck, shall we say, out of scheduling later practices. And Mike Preston went about the business of basically comparing one new school quarterback, in his words, to Michael Vick. And, everybody was talking about playing video games, how he was showing up late. And nobody to this point, absolutely no one, and I ain't on that beat, but I know enough people who are, and nobody has corroborated that story. So we got a fake wannabe, Jason Whitlock, who's obviously auditioning for a spot on the Blaze platform to make a reprehensible remark like that. I find sickening and unprofessional, and it was really damaging to that kid's reputation when all he does. Now, look, I'm not going to say he's an MVP this year. I've been on the record saying the one thing that Joe Flacco has over Lamar Jackson is the Super Bowl. You can't deny that. But all the other measurables and all that other nonsense, I just wanted to clear the air on that because I think that Lamar's taking a bad rap. And oftentimes, I don't believe in the play calling of his offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. He does things at crazy times. And then you had the incident at the beginning of the season where a beat reporter asked John Harbaugh about his trip to the White House. And he went really, let's call it Trump defensive with what he said. He says, I want my president to be successful. Why would you frame a question like that? Meanwhile, the president has called the city that he reps for a hellhole.
Yeah.
So when you look at karma is real, and you start, getting bad breaks. But then that being said, Dev, give Isaiah Likely that touchdown back. We're not even having this conversation, man. And if that's the rule, when you can come with two ball, both hands were on the football. He took 2 steps, which to me at that point became completion of the process. Guy rips his hand out. Hey, the whistle hadn't blown. Great play by Pittsburgh. Not hating on them. But if the rule is written like that, it needs to be rewritten. Because if you catch the ball, have control, take 2 steps. So it's been a really, really crazy type of season for Baltimore. They've grossly underachieved. And in some cases, I think that they need to finagle with the coaching staff. You may not want to bring Zach Orr back. All right. Zach Orr, the defensive coordinator, is no DeMeco Ryans. All right. He's not a Mike McDonald. He ain't a Rex Ryan. You get where I'm coming from? He's not a Chuck Pagano. This is what Raven fan has accustomed to see with their defense, and Zach Orr ain't that guy. So that would be one guy I'd be looking to replace. Rex Ryan is still out there, and I think he could help out. But, Baltimore's caught up on some ego inside that castle. Make no mistake about it, Devin. They think that they got the formula on lock as far as drafting is concerned. They think they've got the most functional free agent spending experience, and it all looks good on paper, but it hadn't looked that good on the field this year.
Yeah, and I know when the Texans went that way, they were just decimated, destroyed by injury on the defensive side of the football. I mean, probably 5, 6 starters, maybe more, were
Hmm.
out. Hamilton was out. Roquan Smith was out. That like your A team was out, and so I know that played a huge part of it. They don't seem to truly commit enough to Derrick Henry. I mean, you saw what happened last week. You know, with 200 and well, whatever, how many of yards, but
I thought it was like 230 or something crazy like that. Yeah.
and I mean, just you. I mean, and then I can see where you might ration out his carries early in the season because you want him in December and January. I get that part, but it just seemed like they just never got the run game right, and they just seem
They
to
didn't
zig
commit
when they
to it.
should zag. Yeah,
And that's I think that's the beef that I have with Todd Monken. I mean, we came up in a time you and I did as OGs. You run to set up the pass.
right.
Baltimore wants to use Lamar Jackson and set up the run game with the pass, and it's totally flipped. You know what I'm saying? And then you can't underscore enough the fact that Baltimore's recipe had already been play it close to the vest. We'll take 3 instead of 7 because of the D.
Right.
The D is not. Hey, Ray Lewis ain't walking through that door. Ed Reed ain't on the back end. Terrell Suggs ain't coming across the edge. Tony Saragusa and Sam Adams, they ain't in the middle no more, bruh. And Baltimore is still caught up in the arrogance of being the Ravens from day gone by. It's a new world order. And to me, the front office and the philosophy just haven't adjusted.
Yeah. So, and the playoffs are coming in, and there's a lot there. But I want to go to something that I think has been huge, and that is sort of the explosion, destruction, reformation of what college football is. You had all of these coaches, Franklin getting fired. You had Brian Kelly, LSU. I mean, they're paying tens of millions of dollars. Lane Kiffin, the deal he got at LSU, actually getting rewarded for any success Ole Miss, his old job, has in the playoffs. Just it's incredible. I mean, I'm on the front lines of it for Texas Southern, doing play-by-play for Texas Southern University. So I understand even on a smaller scale how much NIL and money opportunities for student athletes has come into play. This is just an unbelievable landscape when you think about college football, and still it's going to be as big as ever when it comes to ratings. What are your takeaways from college football this year? Because I think this year has been the craziest I've ever seen when you think about the big names and the big contracts that are being paid off. The Florida coach, he was one of them. I mean, guys getting
Billy
fired.
Napier, yeah.
Gundy getting fired early in the year. Like, he got fired in like September. It's unbelievable what's going on in college football. What are your takeaways? And not even to mention basketball, but just football with all of this craziness in college football.
Well, I'll say this. Oftentimes, we're finding that the highest paid state employee in these states that you're talking about is the head football coach, which to me, I've floated it out there and nobody seems to think that it's viable. But I think there should be a salary cap on college football coaches. I think no state school should be allowed to pay more than $5 million annually to a head football coach. I mean, you got guys, and you brought up LSU. I make no bones about it. I'm a Bayou Bengal apologist, bro. I grew up watching Burt Jones and the whole bit. When I see Brian Kelly being bought out at $96 million, there's something wrong. Fools are hungry and have no health care in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. And the head freaking football coach is the highest paid state employee in that state. It's out of control. Now, to the flip side, coaches have always had free agency. Players have been stuck. The market has corrected. I think the NCAA has been really irresponsible. They should have done a better job policing all these scenarios as far as, 25, 30 years ago. I mean, some guys that played during the 80s at major programs that were hungry on the weekends because the coach couldn't give them any money. There was no training table and stuff like that.
Now,
So
I will say this. I was in Texas, so they were breaking bread.
yeah, the
And-
Longhorns were, but Texas
well,
Southern
ask
wasn't.
Eric Dickerson at SMU. If you cats got paid, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just.
But you
joking,
know what
your
I'm saying?
point is-
God,
yeah, I
they
know
were getting paid under the table. You could have had you know how we talk about the pathway to citizenship? You could have had a pathway to student athletes getting compensated. And to me, you and I probably, I don't know if you had it, but when I was in school, I took advantage of work study. I've
Mhm.
always said the student athletes, with the amount of commitment that they had to make, should have been getting at least a work study check, right?
Right.
If it was no more based upon inflation, when we were in school, $300 to $400 a week, something like that. The adults in the room never handled their business, and what
What
we have
grade?
right now is free agency, which I'm a big fan of. I like the structure of the college football playoffs. I just don't like the fact that the NCAA can't regulate it. Everything is a private entity. I'm at a point right now with the bowl games. I'm like, let's keep the bowl games, but turn them into the NIT. And then that way you got some structure around the Pop-Tart Bowl, the Mayonnaise Bowl, the Boise Blue Turf Bowl. It signifies something. I'm not the sharpest guy in the room by any stretch of the imagination, but it seems like it's pretty simple to implement something like this. Hey, coach, live your life. If you can't make it off of $5 million annually, you might want to start selling some insurance, quite frankly.
Well, let me tell you what'll happen. Right, the first state that passes that, say if Louisiana does it, Alabama is like, nope. Our salary cap, our coaches is $12 million, and so because the competition is so fierce, it's so such a part of the landscape, And I know that not a lot of people think about the student athletes in this situation, but I can tell you, not necessarily firsthand, but let's say secondhand. I'm familiar with situations where kids, and on this level that I, work in and call for radio, the money's not nearly the same. So you'll get a kid that'll jump for maybe, $15, $20, $30,000, right? And what ends up happening, nobody ever thinks about this, is that, you can leave a great situation for only a few dollars. Now, if it gets to the point where you making six figures, you go make that money. But when you're talking about a few $1,000s here, a few $1,000s there, you see kids make long-term mistakes by switching situations where you had the academic advisor you like, you had people giving you that extra attention, you had the extra coaching, you were the big man on that campus. Now you go somewhere else, you're just another guy because everybody's getting paid. And I know long-term, there are going to be winners and losers in all of this. And you want the young men to get advice to protect themselves financially, make sure you pay your taxes, all of the other stuff that comes with it. I'm for the student athletes getting money, but I also hope that these guys are getting real good guidance because, like we say on the domino table, all money ain't good money.
Good
so
money.
you gotta figure it out, man. You have to figure out what's best for you, and if it means sometimes making a short-term sacrifice for maybe a bigger plan. But at the same time, man, if you 19 years old, 20 years old, and you say, man, my boy's over here making $2,000 a month. You 18 years old, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go do that. And I'm going to still ball because I believe in me. And you're going to see it. And, I mean, nobody's going to weep for these young men, but I just hope that a lot of these guys are getting the guidance and the support from family and friends and mentors to make those decisions. Sometimes a couple $1,000s a month makes a huge difference. Sometimes you can hold off and still, establish yourself because what you'll have is guys that'll play 5 different schools in 5 years. You know what I mean? Just craziness. And I do think that there is a reward
No
that
degree
comes
involved either. Just
yeah,
for the
yeah,
record.
yeah. But I do think that there is something to guys staying with a program where you develop
too.
those relationships with alumni, where you become a part of the fabric of that university that can pay off for you long term, where you're not just a hired gun. But again, these things are very complicated. But I just think, I mean, like, how do you guys in Maryland like Big Ten life? I mean, that all that kind of stuff is crazy to
Well,
me.
I'll say this, and I'm glad you asked that point, because I think I could ask the same of, say, Texas A&M going into the SEC.
Hate
It's
it.
one of those situations where you aren't in the upper tier consistently, at least in the case of Maryland. You're still working your way up. I mean, 3, 4, and 8 seasons in a row is unacceptable when you're in that conference. But the check is so big. The
Yeah.
conference payout, and just by having the alignment with the conference, I mean, there's been such a sprawl of an infusion of money that you see new facilities in College Park. But the dilemma is it's a 48,000 seat football stadium, and you're used to seeing 100,000 people. Smaller state, not as many. I mean, you got great talent here, but the Big Ten works a little bit better for Maryland basketball, in my opinion, than it does for football right now. It does, I guess you would say, fill the coffers a little bit more because of the football revenue that is generated. But when it comes to on-field success, it hasn't been happening. And you can't play ACC football in the Big Ten or the SEC. And I will tell you this. Now that James Franklin has left Penn State to go to Virginia Tech, they're going to win. They're going to dominate the ACC. Most of the kids that he was recruiting for Penn State are following him to Blacksburg. I would say that that's going to be the next super program in America. They're going to have a tough time getting into the college football playoffs because of the ACC football residue. That's really considered a basketball conference.
Right.
And they just play football. But you got schools like the University of Miami that's bringing some credibility, and Florida State is falling down.
Yeah, it's a
So
sleeping
Maryland
giant, though.
did what they had to do to get a big check. It's not paying out very well as far as football is concerned, in terms of wins, losses, and postseason games. But they're cashing bigger checks right now than they were in the ACC, and the Big Ten is a lot more solvent than the ACC is right now. So it was a good business decision. It just hadn't led to too many championships in the big 3 sports, other than on the women's side. I will say the women's program, Brenda Fries and her basketball team continues to be elite. The women's soccer team and field hockey programs are doing it big. But everybody wants football to survive. And we were sold a bill of goods that this new infusion of talent this year was going to take Maryland to another level. And for the 3rd consecutive year, they finished at 4-8.
Yeah,
One might say they're stuck, if you will.
Yeah, and when I think ACC, I think of those the Lefty Drizelles and the Steve Francis's of the world competing
Wait a minute.
against.
Well, what about Bobby Ross?
Bobby Ross,
Boomer Esiason.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Randy White.
Yeah, I gotta really dig deep to remember that. I mean, when you talk about Maryland football,
Frank Reich.
He went to Maryland. He was
played behind Boomer. He was the guy that beat the U in the comeback of all lifetime.
Right, and then he did it again with us in the pros, right? But yeah, man, Maryland football. Yeah, I have to do more. I mean, now that you mention those names, but
Stephon Diggs is a Maryland player, believe it or not.
He
Wide
came
receiver.
out of Maryland? Really?
You see Dominique Foxworth.
Yeah.
He's
well,
a
him, I know. He celebrates his Maryland ties. But yeah, no, you don't. Yeah, not a lot. But yeah, I get it. A few sprinkled through the years.
Vernon Davis.
Yeah, man. Yeah, okay.
I mean, Sean Merriman. I mean, it's not like we haven't had studs in this area. But like I said, when you're in Texas, let's say for every one Maryland blue chip prospect, Texas has 5.
Oh, more than that.
And I don't mean that to disrespect, because we got ballers. If you ever look at St. Francis out of Baltimore, they play on TV. I think they won whatever this convoluted high school championship on ESPN. They beat somebody a couple of weeks ago. But you
can do this, right? You've been in the game long enough to do this. Give me your Mount Rushmore of Maryland football players from high school, college. I mean, because
Wow, that's big because, like I
'Cause
mentioned,
if I'm going high school,
Joe Hayden is one of them. Played in Cleveland for about 10 years. The defensive back, wide receiver. There was Vernon and Vontae Davis, who came out of Maryland. I'm trying to think. That's a good one.
So let me tell you who came out of my neighborhood, just my neighborhood, right around. One of the best 1AA players in the history of football, Johnny Bailey, which you won't remember him. That's fine. You have Dexter Manley, who I know you know. He went to Yale.
Yes.
You had Darrell Green,
Yes.
all-time
Texas
great.
A&M.
Yeah, he went to Jones. You had let's see, Mike Singletary out of Worthing, right? You had a number of other pros like Alpha Williams, Santana Dotson, those guys. You had Kenny Houston. Well, now he's really north side. He's Wheatley, but not far. Then you had
he wore burgundy and gold too.
Otis Taylor, Lester Hayes, all these guys from right around the neighborhood, and that's just football. And I know I'm forgetting a few others, but yeah, man.
But now I will say this: down south, football country. Up here's basketball country. We could throw out some names basketball wise that would
you got Durant.
You got Kevin Durant down there right now.
Right.
Adrian Dantley, Dave Bing.
Yeah.
My goodness, Carmelo Anthony. Heck, Angel Reese right now. I mean, come on.
I guess the best out of Houston will probably be Clyde, top 50 all-time player. Who else? Basketball.
That's right. He's a native boy. He
went from the hood, from South Park. You have like Otis Birdsong. You got some older guys, that really did it big. But yeah, man, that's always a fun discussion. And it's good to have somebody that's old enough that appreciates and can reference those guys going back deep. So there are a lot of people who hear this and they won't know who in the hell we're talking about. But
exactly.
The ones that know, they know. And so that's
why we are at that age right now where we have to embrace our OG and school the new Gs that there was great sports before there were remote control color TVs that we grew up on. And I tell kids all the time, the remote in my house was me. I had to get up and go turn the channel.
You know what I miss from our youth, man, more than anything? The biggest disappointment in my sports life, watching the decline of the sport of boxing, man. I was a huge boxing guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Silver Springs, Maryland, you got Sugar Ray.
Palmer Park, Maryland, right down the block from my house.
Man,
Sugar Ray Leonard grew up literally across the street from what is now Northwest Bank Stadium, where the Commanders play.
I'm just saying, you think about, and we get into this broader discussion about, Floyd Mayweather. And you put Floyd Mayweather, do you think, and again, we did not plan on talking about this, and I don't know why I'm on my soapbox about this. Do you think that Floyd Mayweather could have beaten, not Sugar Ray, because I'm going to say no on that. He can't beat Durant. Do you think he could beat Aaron Pryor? That's a matchup. Woo! And I'm talking about fully
I'll say this,
Aaron Pryor.
See, I think that, and it's funny that you mentioned that because a lot of the guys that you're talking about were known for having heavy hands and knocking people out. I look at Floyd Mayweather through the filter of a guy like Lennox Lewis, who used to call himself a pugilist specialist. Which really means technical boxer who's going to outpoint you instead of beat you down.
Right.
You kind of like me. You want to see a good old-fashioned stand in the middle of the ring, Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler fight, 3 rounds, probably the best ever. The Sugar Ray Leonard fight when he fought Tommy Hearns and he came back late, as he did with Hagler. Guys fought then, and they weren't really getting paid for it. And I'm talking about paying in terms of generational wealth like they are right now, but they laid it on the line. What these guys do right now, as seemingly every other generation does, is kind of remake itself so that it's not as hard to get to the championship level. So if I can dance around and create some height, then I'm going to dance around and create some height. You and I want to see
Right.
guys stand in the middle and fight or be on the ropes. And
So yeah,
You know-
so this is what a partner of mine, he said, man, you just want to see people knock each other head out. No, that's not just it. But there comes a moment in a fight where you have to, assert your will over another man. So it's not enough to just outbox. Yeah, that's part of it. But there's a moment. It may not be the whole 12 rounds, but there's a moment where you have to say, I'm imposing my will on you. I'm beating you, whatever that looks like. You talk about Sugar Ray knowing that he had to damn near lose an eye to get inside of that Hearns jab, but he did what he had
did
to
it.
do so he can inflict his will and his pain. And, just the decline. Yeah, I watch so many of these old fights, man.
So, well, I'm glad you brought that up because I think what we're dealing with right now is, first off, boxing didn't do us fans a service by not making the fights when guys were at the peak of their time on both sides. There's a lot of promotional stuff that got in the way of it. And then comes along this madness called UFC. And I'm not into the, liquored up, tap out, suit wearing, yahoos who have really taken over our combat sport, which was boxing. There's no elegance. I mean, you dress up to go to a prize fight. It was a thing.
Right.
I think the last fight I covered probably was about 25 years ago. It was in Madison Square Garden. It was a Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis match. Everybody was there. Everybody was dressed to the nines. I remember I had this real funky black pinstripe suit. And, Tony Kornheiser called me over to the ESPN set to talk about my suit. That's what it was. I was standing, he told me I was dressed like John Saraceno. He used to work for USA Today. It was like but that's how it was. And right now, you go to a boxing match and you worry that something's going to jump off. Every time Tank fights, there seems to be some kind of eruption in the stands. And, you don't get good fights on TV anymore.
Right.
And you and I saw great fights for free in prime time when we were growing up.
Wide World of Sports.
Wide World of Sports. You know what I'm saying?
The CBS Sunday Spectacular.
So
Billy Costello.
we grew up when boxing was free. It went pay-per-view,
Right.
and then guys stopped fighting each other when they were at their prime, so we could get a trilogy, perhaps.
Yeah.
The trilogies made boxing. You get to that rubber fight,
Look at this
must
one.
see TV.
Look at this one behind me. I don't know if you see Frazier and Ali behind.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
71. And that, as great as the first fight was, it's magnified by the fact that there was a trilogy, and you don't even have to talk about the second fight. Just the first and third fights were amazing. But yeah, that's just sort of my old guy get off my lawn moment that I frequently have, because like I said, YouTube has changed the game where you can go back and watch all of these.
Yes.
I just watched Ernie Shavers and who was it? It was Ernie Shavers. I
Ken
didn't know the
Norton?
other fighters. No, I saw this one, but the one you have to see is Larry Holmes, Ken Norton. You got to go
Okay.
back and watch that one. You got to watch Ron Lyle and George Foreman, where it was 5 knockdowns in that fight. I mean, it was a beautiful thing, man, and I missed that part. But let's, as we sort of close this thing out, let's look forward a little bit to 2026. Prediction time. You have the most wide open NFL playoffs in memory. I can't. You have to go before. You would have to go to the 2001 when Brady won his first one. When
Right, the Tucker rule, yes.
and even then, the dominant team was supposed to be the Rams, right? It
Right.
was supposed to be the Rams repeating, right?
Greatest show
didn't
on
have-
turf.
So like when I can't think of a time when things have been this wide open. I mean, you have nobody that I don't like. If you look at it, I don't think no all pro quarterback will reach the Super Bowl unless you talk about Josh Allen. He's the only one. And Aaron Rodgers could conceivably, but nobody thinks Pittsburgh, even if they get past Baltimore, nobody thinks they're going to the Super Bowl. So
are you saying that Matthew Stafford shouldn't be considered an MVP
oh,
candidate
that's right.
this
Well,
year?
yeah, you're right. He's the MVP. Yeah,
He's a candidate now.
he should get the MVP. But I'm saying, like, when you look at it, you have guys, instead of being Lamar, Josh, Burrow, or Mahomes, those four, now you have a situation where obviously you got Jalen Hurts, who's had a ton of success, H-Town guy, by the way.
Mhm.
But also, you got Sam Darnold in the mix, Caleb Williams in the mix, Drake May in the
Homeboy
mix.
Caleb Williams.
Yeah, he's from
He's
your
from
neck
around
of
the way.
woods. Yeah. So I mean, like you could very well see a matchup with guys that just have no other accolades going into the Super Bowl. Although Philly has to still be a favorite, and the Rams as well. But I guess Brock Purdy's had enough success, but you could have
You're forgetting about Seattle though. I really like
Sam
Mike
Darnold.
McDonald, the coach.
Right. So we played with the Texans played
Texans.
them. This is what scares me about Darnold, right? That defense was incredible. They were on par. That night, they were on par with the Texans defense. And everybody knows Texans have number one defense. Darnold turned the ball over 5 times in that game. You're not going to be able to do that in the playoffs. And everybody's good in the playoffs. You're not going to be able to turn the ball over or not get it done at the quarterback position, even with that great defense. Because the run game with Charbonnet and Walker is cool, but it ain't like the old, Sean Alexander days or something like that. Or
ain't no beast mode in the backfield anymore.
Right. So I like Seattle, and I like them a lot at home, but Darnold scares me, man. And that's the thing. Everybody has a flaw. Everybody has a flaw.
Everybody does have a flaw. Well, you know something? The more and more I look at the Eagles, the flaw is that Nick Sirianni seems to let the noise around the city get into the way that he's calling and game planning a game. At some point, if I'm Nick Sirianni, and a lot of it has to do with the Philadelphia media, for what people talk about the New York media, Philadelphia media creates trouble. And there's a guy in particular named Howard Eskin who just has to be, and he's been a long time talk show host and sideline reporter for the team. And he's able to do things that lights fires, gaslights the audience. And I think really inside, Nick Sirianni hears that stuff and claims that he wants to tell people to kiss his A, when in truth, I think that bothers him. And it's reflective in the way that he game plans and calls plays. Look, you got a stud running back and you got a great offensive line. You run that football until they drop, and it makes life easier on Jalen Hurts. But no, they want to go spread look and all that. When Philly's winning, they mauling people. And so I'm, not a Philly fan. Can't say that I don't enjoy watching him suffer a little bit. But at the end of the day, and that's my sister-in-law's favorite team. So that's a topic for another show. It's like I'm married into a family. We got the whole division of the NFC East covered. But Sirianni is a lot better coach than I think he even gives himself credit for. And if he could find a way to be mature enough to tune out the outside noise, then I think the Eagles are a better team. And right now, I think what makes them more dangerous is that, you get to the playoffs, it's survive and advance. And Philly is a back against the wall kind of town. It's kind of like when Michigan basketball was having their problem. It was like Michigan versus everybody. I think the Eagles are like that. It's a town that America really loves to hate. They don't do anything to make everybody outside of, Philadelphia feel good about them. And they wear that as a badge of honor. That's a part of Philly culture. I think what Nick Sirianni needs to embrace it. I remember one time when Randy Moss scored a touchdown in Minnesota, and he bent over and he faked like he pulled his pants down.
In Green Bay,
yeah, it was in Green Bay, right?
Right.
Well, I think that Nick Sirianni ought to do that in Philly once or twice. Hey, you didn't. It took y'all 50 years to get a championship, and I brought you one of them.
Yeah.
Respect me and keep it moving. And I respect him a lot. I think he's a lot better coach than people give him credit for, and he does a good job managing his talent. Sometimes the game plan is a little jinky, but he always seems to have his team in position to win, and that's what you want from your coach.
Yeah, what I look at with Philadelphia, I look at a couple of problems. You talk about another call is coming from in the house when you talk about AJ Brown and the problems he's probably causing in that in that receiver room.
Diva
You
receiver.
know, yeah, but also I think last year for all of the accolades and the props that were given to Jalen Hurts, which again he deserves. I mean, in a lot of ways, you had one of the all-time great seasons from a running back. Now you lose Lane Johnson. You can't run the ball the way you did. Now you have to
Jason
be
Kelce.
something. Yeah, well, yeah. A couple years ago, they lost Jason
Right.
Kelce, but they were able to overcome that to go to the Super Bowl last year and win it last year. But to lose Lane Johnson this year, not quite the same. You lose other smaller but more but important parts. And if you can't run, and again, I think a lot of the angst is because it's Philadelphia. Because at the end of the day, they're still going to be a 3 seed or something like that. So, for all of the hemming and hawing we've done about this team, they still right there. That's just the nature of the NFL. But at the same time, I think you can reasonably forecast an exit in these playoffs, especially if you have to go to Seattle or San Francisco. You like your chances a lot better if it's Chicago with unproven Caleb Williams in the playoffs. But man, you just never know. But it makes it for for a really, really fun playoffs, man. So real quick, NBA champion. Give me a pick, a December 30th pick for NBA champion. That's 6 months from now.
Wow. If you asked me this 3 weeks ago, I say OKC. Now that I've seen how the matchup between them and San Antonio looks, I'm leaning towards San Antonio now. I think those two teams, to me, are the best two teams in the league, and I just love what their coaches do. They are in lockstep with their rotations. They do a really, really good job of the motion offense and creating looks, and they pretty much tenacious defensive teams. I will say that all the things seemingly that the SGA can do, Victor Wembanyama can do it at a foot taller. So I like, I really like San Antonio. It's a matter of whether or not they can handle the championship pressure, and I'm not quite. I'm a ride or die Knicks fan.
Mhm.
We met in Orlando.
Right.
Because when we were watching the OJ chase together,
Yep.
and it was the Knicks and the Rockets,
Yep,
and
that night.
and I
That
tell
night.
people that story all the time, man, and they don't believe me. I said, "Do you know where I watched the OJ chase with? It was with you at Disney."
Jumping up and down in the bed. I had the bath. I mean, we had a whole 30
It was a
people in
bungalow.
this room, and we had I had the I couldn't shower in my room because it was filled with ice and beverages, and we even had Orlando natives coming through. Like, where the party at? I'm like, yo, we doing it.
We
But
just
yeah,
doing us.
yeah, that was a blast. But yeah, no, so like I said, if I had to pick, I'd go OKC. Not that I think if it came down to the Western Conference Championship, I think that you give San Antonio a more than 50% chance. They 3-0 this season. A long time from now, got to stay healthy. But I think they have matchups that could be problematic for them before they get to OKC. Whereas I think OKC with that defense and that they proven themselves in the postseason. I'm always leery to pick a team that hadn't had that postseason experience and gone through the paces. It seems to matter, man. It seems cliche, but it really does seem to matter. You have to take your lumps in the playoffs before you really are able to make that leap. Although, OKC did it faster than anybody that I can really remember last season.
I will say this about OKC. It's not about the team. It's about the organization. You just look at the way, and they have a cap-friendly roster. They hold a boatload of draft capital. So if they want to go out and acquire somebody at the end of the day, they don't have to necessarily take away from their core
Right.
when you've got draft picks. And I think that's huge, man. The efficiency, and if you just look at where they're set up over the next few years with cap space and picks,
Yeah.
OKC isn't going anywhere, and I really like. It took a while for Mark Daniel to grow on me as a coach. I used to think he was like, that arrogant, smart guy in the room. No, he a savant, and I forgot the front office guy name. Is it Presti? And that's Sam Presti.
Yeah.
And when you in lockstep, and you know this because you watched it play out on the wrong side for a few years. When your VP of basketball ops and your head coach are on the same page, you end up having a dynasty. And I think that's where Houston was. But of course, they had Dream and Clyde and, all that. Kenny Smith.
Right.
For those of y'all of a certain age, Kenny Smith had games. He was a glue player on a couple of championship teams in Houston. And I don't think people of a certain age can appreciate that. But that's what made Houston work.
Right.
When they were winning. I see a lot of those qualities in terms of not necessarily how they play because it's a different NBA, but the way that the organization is run takes me back to the days where Houston was the toughest out in the playoffs and nobody wanted to see them.
No doubt about that. Hey, man, how can people find you? Where can they find you? Where can they hear you? Where can they see you? How can my folks come into contact with your content?
All right. Well, I'm hosting OG Sports Rap on Sports Rap Network. Download the mobile app. I'm on from, I guess, in the Central Time Zone from 10 to midnight.
Okay.
Come on through. Check us out. 9-11 on the east side, 6 to 8 out west. And
that would make it 8 to 10 our time. 8 to 10. So not so bad. If it's 6 p.m., 6 p.m. Pacific, it's 8 p.m. Here. So, not bad.
So,
a little prime time.
So that's what we do Monday through Fridays. I'm also on MLBBro.com, so we can crank it up to 6 years of covering Major League Baseball. And I will say this.
Congratulations about that, by the way. You guys do an incredible job of putting us in those spaces that we should be from a media standpoint. So congrats to the fellas and all the people that make that happen. It's a big deal, and I'm excited for that to continue as you guys do what you do.
Y'all one of the few of the proud places that actually has an MLB Bro and George Springer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And really, man, we need to table this conversation because I think that there's a misnomer that the game is so far out of the reach financially of kids who look like us. I think that's being a little misrepresented. I think baseball is lazy right now in terms of looking for Black American talent, if you will. I think that they know that if you can get 3 prospects from the Dominican Republic and develop them for the price of one Black American kid coming out of a Power 5 program, that's why I think, in my opinion, you see the lack of Black players in baseball right now. And
we see that number kind of creeping up, and the presence is being felt. And I know a lot of that because of you guys and what you do. But I will say this, and I have to represent H-Town and the RBI Foundation and what they do out in Acres Home. My cousin used to be over that part of the foundation, and they've developed. We've had conversations where he talked about how many kids he got college scholarships for. He had their first round draft pick last year or year before last. So they continue to crank it out. It's really inexpensive. It's on the north side, so it's not easily accessible for a lot of people. But if you want to develop your kid in that space, they're doing it on every level. Not only are they getting guys in college, they are also getting guys drafted high in the MLB draft. And I will tell you this, kudos to the ownership of the Astros because they do really support that. And frequently the players come out and do their part. So that's one shining light.
And I'll give the same kind of kudos to the Washington Nationals. They've got their Dream Baseball Academy. It's kind of in the hood, if you will. They do summer programs that are enrichment programs, not only for the kids who want to play baseball, but, learning engineering and things like that. So they're pockets of places that are trying to cultivate the next generation of Black talent, Black American talent. But, it's a bottom line business. And I think oftentimes when you have successful Black American families who understand the worth of their child, and when you get into negotiations, favorable negotiation means both sides didn't get what they totally wanted.
Right.
Baseball organizations want to get what they want when they want it. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And I think that baseball in the deep recesses of its soul is worried about having that like 1979 and 1989 thing where players were empowered, where, that was the Doc Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, Dave Winfield, Joe Carter time. Despite what the Dodgers are doing, I don't know if baseball is really comfortable with that. That's something that they claim, they play that they are. But if you just look at the way teams are being constructed right now and the way the draft picks go, but I am proud. And if I could take this, if you go to YouTube and look under MLB Bro Archives, I do this thing called Black in the Day, historic perspectives and telling the backstory behind great Black American baseball players. And over the 5 years, I've done about 60 of them. And check them out, because I think what we got to do now that we OGs is we got to show folks Reggie Jackson's 3-home run World Series night. You got to show them the walk-off from Joe Carter. I even did last year the all-time MLB Bro HBCU team.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of the guys who, I didn't know when I worked in Atlanta. Don Clendenin, 1969 World Series MVP, a Morehouse guy. Who knew that?
Right.
And so we got a legacy in the game that we can stand on. And I just want to make sure that, Black American fans know that the American national pastime definitely was influenced by Black Americans, people of color. And I just want the old school to get their props because of all the joy they gave us when we were watching baseball on Saturday afternoons and Monday nights on national TV. That's my game, man. I love it, even if it doesn't love me back.
Well, like I said, man, I really appreciate your time. Happy New Year and all that good stuff. And like I said, we're gonna have to make this more regular.
Yes,
as I'm I got KTSU Sports Talk. I'm rebranding what I do in this podcast space. And my next thing that I may do, and I'm gonna tease this for the crowd, is I may do something in the line of bourbon reviews. I've been a bourbon guy lately, man. I'm on bourbon real tough, man.
Really?
And, man, it is a joyous endeavor, and it's so much more complex than just drinking. It's
it's a lifestyle.
Oh man, it is something, man. I've been bitten by the bourbon bug, let's say. So I put away my Canadian whiskey for these days. I'm no more Crown for me or 40 Creek. Right now, it's all out of Kentucky, Tennessee, and even Texas has a couple bourbons out here. So yeah, we doing our thing, man. I may do a bourbon podcast. I see you venture into gambling. You did but I tell you what, that is fertile ground for a podcast. So hey,
absolutely,
man,
with the emphasis on fertile. And if you're going to Vegas and you get down like that, Planet 13.
Planet
That's
13.
all I'll say.
All right. Well,
Planet
maybe they can come aboard and sponsor us.
I am Professor G, and I approve that message.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, man. Thanks so much.
All right, man. Thank you, bro. Always a pleasure.